All right, welcome to now. This is actually officially episode 9. I think last week I was like, it's episode 9, but it wasn't. This is now actually episode 9 of the classroom. All still here, which is nice to see. Busy week this week. Parents' evening prior to the call, which was entertaining. So a bit of a light week on the Instagram because of busy stuff. But next week and the week after, I'll be sort of all over it, getting our views hopefully up as well, with some more posts out and what we're doing there. Today I'm rocking the Milwaukee Bucks Ray Allen jersey. My favorite jerseys for the story behind this. So at the end of my third year at uni, I went to America to work out there and do Camp America, and I was luckily bunked with a kid who was a hell of a basketball player, like high school player out there for East Brunswick in New Jersey, who then went to Michigan and actually, like, he didn't go out there to play. He's still there, University of Michigan, who are like decent in the March Madness right now, but he was a hell of a player. Like, this might sound like an insult, but it really wasn't. Like, he was on the women's practice squad. So like the Michigan women team, they would have their own personal practice squad. He was on that. He ran point for that team. And when I turned up, there was also another kid who was a decent player in New York who actually played the AAU team with Cole Anthony. So I've dropped like a couple of things in there. So actually some decent players. And the kid who was from New York, he turned up with this jersey and a Fresno State Paul George college jersey and was like, does anyone want them? Anyone want one? Like, and I was like, I was brand new. It was like my second day. I was like, yeah, I'd definitely like one. And then the other kid who I was bunking with was like, do you want to play for him? We'll play one-on-one. Like, what do you want to do? And Corey, I've shown you the court there, and like the court was decent, like outdoor court, I remember seeing lovely, like lovely court. And then so he was like, do you want to play one-on-one for it? Like, yeah, it's cool with me. Like, didn't know how good he was, and he definitely didn't know that I could play. And he was a bit smaller than me, and I went in the post every time at him, bucket after bucket on him. He then pulled up some shots I've never seen people hit before, like fadeaway threes, corner fadeaway, everything. And I luckily beat him like 11-9, something like that. So that's why this is actually one of my favourite jerseys. I'm glad, because the Fresno State one was a lot smaller than this, and this is tight. I actually, one of my favourite jerseys for that. And Ezra, his name's Ezra. He's also got a podcast out in America, NBA. That's on Spotify, so he's doing decent out there as well. So beat him, but he was an absolute baller. We played a camp game against each other, and he dropped 40 in 20 minutes on like decent players. So he was absolutely hell of a player. That's brief story on why I'm rocking this. I'm coming to you, Corey. How you been? How's your week been?
Sort of trying to get myself together and try and make some plans for stuff coming out of lockdown. Obviously, I'm waiting to hear the announcement if I can go back abroad or not. But saving this one as a surprise for you. I'm actually back in Hemel on Friday.
Yeah, buddy.
Yeah, so I'm back around for like probably 4 or 5 days maximum. But getting my hair cut, my beard done and stuff on Saturday, so can't wait for that, to be honest. It's the most expensive travel I've ever had to do for a haircut, but it's happening. So I'm happy.
Decent. Do you want me a message and I'll come out and see?
Yeah, we'll do it.
JP, I'm coming to you. How you doing?
I'm all right, mate. Just getting tired of looking like Pablo Escobar from Narcos out here. So I'll be doing something about my hair the weekend. I hopefully get my brother to fix me up with something nice. And I'm back.
Or just anything home. That's better than that.
Well, anything will be better than this. So I'll be looking fresh for next week, basically.
So you're rocking a jersey, yeah?
Yeah, I'm back at home now. Back in a different setting. Rocking the 49ers Colin Kaepernick jersey. I've spoke about him on many episodes, and it's my first ever jersey come NBA, NFL, NHL, MLB. So this one's probably going to stay with me for many years to come.
You got an NHL jersey?
Yeah, NHL. Yeah.
What team are you got?
The Kings.
Have you? Decent. Fair enough. They're just sort of like, I've always wanted to get one, but it's one of those I've just never got around to doing. It's decent. And then coming down to Wayne, how you doing, pal?
I'm not too bad. I got my second dose of vaccine today, so if I'll start doing that,
Hey, you start falling down, yeah?
Hey, Tom, I actually got the same jersey, the Ray Allen one. I'm gonna wear it next week.
Yeah. Mate, yours probably bigger than mine. This is tight.
Yeah, mine's like old, man. It's kind of getting ruined for from the wash and stuff. But
Do you know what? That is the biggest problem with jerseys. And I had my St. Vincent St. Mary's one, the LeBron James High School one, and that's gone in the wash, and it's ruined the numbers. Like,
yeah,
there is no safe way of washing jerseys. There is no safe way. Like,
wash.
yeah,
It actually is. Get your mum to do it.
That is the best tip ever.
That's my tactic.
Leave it to your mum to do.
Oh God. Jesus, Wayne.
I didn't hear what Wayne said. Didn't hear what he said.
Yeah, it's not repeatable. It's not worthy of repeat.
Oh, okay. All right. But so nice to sort of have you guys here and have the chat with everyone. Shout out our new sponsor this week after cutting out last week's one. New sponsor this week, Chad Ochocinco. He's in there today.
Official jersey retirement for me today. The top's up in the rafters. That's me done.
Oh, yeah.
Coming in there. I've actually just like, Corey, I didn't even tell you about it. I'm just like, as I was mid-parent evening, put down Chad as my volunteer. I
noticed the edit last week. I was sitting there and I was waiting for it, and I was like, "Did he?"
I watched it back. And I thought, I'm more than happy to do it. And then I watched it back again and thought, I really can't be asked for any questions. Like, I don't like it was just where I was like, do you know what? I couldn't be bothered. I really needed it. I could do it in. I'm going to drop it in at some point later.
It may be more discreet.
Yeah, last week was very much. I might as well have phoned her. But hey, ho, we're doing. And then also, just want to bring attention, Corey. Can you stop sending me that person's stories, please? Make me sick. She is disgusting.
Without fail, every
week.
Boys.
That boys is actually someone you might.
It's a previous sponsor.
Yeah, I just cannot stand her.
Certain establishment in Eastbourne that sells alcohol and food.
I've never been that passionate about someone and not like really not liked them. It's a joke. But yeah, we'll carry on. It's just stop. All right, nice to catch up, everyone. I know we had a chat off screen anyway, and I'll catch up then. So just to let you guys know, the post of the competition will be going up later on today after the episode. However, I just want to let you guys know that the scores this week have gone amazingly for exactly 2 people, because when you're as good as us, you just got to listen to us. Myself and Wayne picking 2 out of 2 this week. The games that JP put to us were Portland at Dallas and then the Hornets at the Clippers. Okay, myself and Wayne went Portland. And actually what we said, Wayne, looking back, was very much true. We went with Dame having a decent game. CJ came back. And I also was glad that Melo came off the bench and got like 20. I can't not watch a Melo game without thinking that. And then Corey and JP went with Dallas. Okay, and we're going to kick off with this game. JP, what was your takeaway from this game? What did you think?
Well, first and foremost, I need to stop picking games where the two teams are playing each other back to back, because I did it with the Hawks against Celtics, and the game that I actually didn't preview, the Hawks won, and I predicted the Hawks to come out on top. But the game we actually did the scoreline on, the Hawks lost by like 20.
Yeah, it didn't even turn up.
It was bad.
and then this happened with the Mavs and the Trailblazers, where the game we predicted, obviously I took the L, and then a day later they're like beaten like by 40, and then Doncic, turns out to be an absolute baller the second game. So it annoys me. I'm going to stay away from the back-to-back games. As you mentioned, Dame went off, CJ went off, both got 30 plus. Doncic tried his best, he got 38. But he needs Porzingis to step up still. Do you know what I mean? He's getting more boards than Porzingis, and it ain't right. It doesn't make sense to me. Porzingis is there to crash boards and facilitate. Yes, he's got a 3-point game, but he the Mavs rely on Doncic for that, because he can do that. He's an out and out.
He needs to drop you 15 to 20 and get you 10 boards. That's what his job is to do.
That's all he has to do.
He's not doing either.
But the Mavs
might drop 28 and he'll get 3 boards. You're 7 feet tall. Go and catch the ball.
You're not asking a lot from a guy who's supposed to be, one of the best forwards in the league, or even the best centre, because he plays the 5 position now and again. But he's supposed to be one of the best in the league, and you're not asking a lot. You're asking him to get double-digit rebounds and a few assists, and he's not doing that consistently. And it's starting to show for the Dallas Mavericks.
Yeah, on Porzingis, I think what really bugs me is this idea that he has to play outside. I'd rather a big work their way from in to out and eventually get to an outside game. Like, I can name so many through history. Rasheed Wallace, okay, started his career inside, worked his way out. Jermaine O'Neal, KG, like, do that way because it's worked, it's proven. Don't do the opposite, because at some point people aren't going to give you the ball anymore and it's not going to work. So I want to see more from Porzingis. Corey, as you took an L in this one as well, what did you think of the whole game or any sort of points?
I've written it all down and had a look at the stats and stuff like that as well. And it just seemed to me that Portland were willing to give up the ball more. Is Portland were willing to sacrifice, whereas now McCollum's back and stuff as well. I feel like Dame picked up some good assists in this game as well, I believe. And they just seem, I think, overall in the game, they had 6 more assists and more rebounds than the Mavs. And it just goes to show that they're giving up the ball more. And for 2 of your players to drop 30 plus, it's hard to lose an NBA game if 2 of your starters drop 30. And they just seem to share the ball a lot more. They were more interested, I think, in bringing people into the game, whereas it just seems that Mavs at the moment, they've got their go-to game plan and it relies on 2 people. And if one of those 2 people don't play well, then they're lost. Like, they're not. And that's why they've got the record they have this season. And it just goes to show in a game like that, because Portland are a beatable team. Defensively, not a strong team. They're beatable. And it was one of those. And as JP said, the next night they want to blow them out. And that just sums up Mavs in a season, to be honest. So it was a deserved victory for Portland.
Before we go down to one of the best guards I've played with, I'm going to go down to Wayne here. Wayne, I want your take on that backcourt down there with Dame and CJ. What are you taking on that?
I can say this season they are the best backcourt in NBA.
I'm so glad you said that, because I was going to say it. But...
Top 3 backcourt for the last 5-6 seasons. I'm not even gonna lie to you. It's always been Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, but just behind that, is Dame and CJ. And Corey, I'm not gonna lie, I don't know if we're watching the same game, because I'm looking at the stat sheet and the game was very close. Like, I'm very surprised how Mavs lost that game, because they actually out rebounded Portland. They had more assists than Portland. They had more blocks than Portland. Like, they have the better field goal than Portland. The only reason why, I watched the game was entertaining to watch, but when you go back and look at the stat sheet, how did Mavs lose this game? And the reason why they lost is their bench play, man. Melo really saved the Trailblazers, the Portland, they scored 34 off the bench, whereas Mavs only had 25, and that's the reason why.
They've got 43 rebounds. Dallas got 39.
Are we doing this right game? Was the score 125 over 119?
Yeah, that's the one I got. Different websites. But
I'm on NBA.com.
Wayne, I agree.
I literally checked the stats like 15 minutes before we did this. I
love it. I watched the game, and what I took from it was how good Portland can just score. I never felt Portland were going to go 2 possessions without scoring the basketball, and I know the old adage of defense wins championships, offense wins games, and that was proof. Offense does win games, and what Dame, I think, as much as I do agree with the statement that they are the best backcourt in the league, I think now we think about the Nets and they're on that different level. But I'm so high on Dame and CJ. I think what my favorite thing about them both is I never see when you have like good duos, you always think at some point someone's going to overtake and be selfish, don't you? And it's going to like mess the team up. What I love about Dame and CJ is they're selfish for the other person. Like, you see Dame get the inbound pass, and he's like, "Yeah, give it to CJ. I don't want it. That's CJ's set."
The annoying thing is with Portland is now we're talking about, the best backcourt duo in the league, and they've been like that for many years. And it's going on a similar path to obviously how people mentioned Steph and Klay. So then what's actually missing for the Trailblazers? Do you know what I mean? Like, we look at them and Curry as a defensive duo, Clay is clearly a better defensive player than Steph, but CJ and Dame are two good defensive players as well. So what's actually missing for this Trailblazers team now?
I do think what they're missing, and I love Melo. I talk about him all the time. I'm a massive Melo fan. Their issue is who's next, and Melo's a great player, Hall of Fame player, but I don't think you can win with Kanter as your centre. He's a good player, but you ain't winning with Kanter. I like Covington. I'm a huge fan of Robert Covington, and I think he's if you go back to the best made team, being that Golden State team with Steph, Clay, Barnes, Green, and then Bogut. If you go down that mold, I just think they're missing their Green and their Bogut. Like they've got their front court. I think Covington plays that Barnes role really well. I like some of the young pieces. I just don't think they've got their best five that they could yet. And I know we'll go on to it later, and I've got a name that I want to drop in for Portland, but we'll come to that later in our trades bit. But yeah, I just think they're missing someone else. A change. The game doesn't change. When you watch Portland, you know how they're going to play.
Yeah.
It's high pick and rolls, Dame and CJ coming off getting their shot. Melo comes in. Can we post Melo up, let him work on someone? That's it. Get a rebound. Yeah.
Portland, they need a real star, man. They need not a real star. They need a third star to complement Dame and CJ, because Nurkic, when he's playing, he's really good, but he can't guard a stick.
No.
The team in general can't guard a stick. The bench is not really that great. They got good names on the bench, but the bench isn't that great. But
I think they've got young players
and nothing else.
Yeah, pardon? I think they've got good young players.
Yeah, but even that, Rodney Hood is supposed to be that that plug that comes off the bench and plays really well, but he's not really showing up nowadays.
Well, he has his moments. Rodney Hood has his moments, and is that going to be a guy off the bench that is going to do it in a 7-game series? I don't think it is for Portland.
No, I think for them, their best young players are Simons, Trent. I'm a fan of those two. Excited where that's going to go. I just think what they miss is a big who scores the ball, and again, I'll come on to that later.
It's just the fact that he can't play B, and I feel like Portland, any game, if it's close enough, I'll probably put my money on Portland. But because their games are not always close like that, I can't put my money on them.
Yeah.
So
no, I agree.
That piece and stuff, and they won't be able to get that piece because Portland hasn't got really a luxurious trades. It's not like a great destination to go. It's always raining and stuff like that, so the players don't really want to go there.
Yeah, no, I get you. So just to cover that, was 125 to 119 for Portland, and me and Wayne called that very decent dub for us two there. Moving on to our next game, which is the night after, and again another easy dub when you look at it in the end for me and Wayne. And Corey joined us on this dub, going against JP, who's sort of now got the pressure on him from Corey down at that bottom bit. And that actually, again, that beard has got bigger the more pressure he's got on him. So the game ended Charlotte Hornets 98, LA Clippers 125. And I'm just going to kick this one off. What I saw was exactly what I thought. The Clippers are defensively and offensively just a better team. I didn't think there was many faults to the Clippers game. I know that I know what we're going to get from Kawhi Paul George now, actually, because they're hitting a bit of consistency. I know what I'm going to get most nights. Okay, granted, he had that Milwaukee night that we covered, and he went that last 2-3 minutes, and it was the worst PG I've seen. But actually, what I've seen recently is a Paul George that I think will do well. And then I just think, unfortunately, I think the Hornets' big issue. They're young. It's just that, in my opinion, they're young. They'll get there. They've got players. I just think they're young, and that's my take. I'm going to kick off with Corey. How did you feel about all this?
Yes,
getting that dub.
As I said in the previous video, I said that Clippers would just flex their defensive muscles. They were going to strangle and they were going to limit, and that's exactly what they did. And not only that, when it talks about team play, I think they demonstrated exactly what you want. I think 7 of the players in rotation hit double figures, which is crazy. Normally, if your starting 5 gets double figures, you're happy. That's a good feat to get. But to get 7 players, and we're talking players with 20 plus as well. We're not talking players hitting 10 and 11. obviously your rotational players are, but Lou Will coming off the bench for like 18 or 19 and stuff like that. It's so hard when a team can strangle you defensively and then they can give the ball to anyone on the court and they still drop points on you. It was a comfortable, easy blowout win for Clippers. And I think my statement in the last game was they're going to strangle them defensively and limit them to I think I might have even said under 100 or limit them to around 100.
Yeah.
Which obviously they did. And I said that there will be a turning point where Clippers go, right, we need to start playing now if we want a good seed, because I think they're sitting fourth at the moment. If they want a good seed, they're going to have to play. And I think as a Clippers organisation, they're so known for being terrible in the playoffs. So I think a big seed for them is a very, very important thing. And Jazz, as I said, at some point in their team, their season's going to take a little bit of a wobble. Lakers are not going to really start playing towards the end because they don't really care. So it's a real good opportunity for them to go and get second. And I think now this is where we'll start seeing it from them. So basically what I predicted, what was said would happen, literally exactly happened.
Yeah, and that, mate, I agree. I think watching it just felt, I was watching it thinking this is a decent game, but they were just a better team. JP, what's your take on it?
If the thing I'm most annoyed about is the fact how Corey got it spot on in terms of his prediction of how.
So are you saying he should get a bonus point for
that? No, we're not gonna just start giving out points to Corey. We don't do that around here. But they just strangled the Hornets, and it was it's an annoying performance to watch when I'm backing a team like that, because for your seventh option to get the most points with 21, it's not going to be a good night for you. There's been instances and rare instances where players off the bench obviously grab like 40 and the team and help the team win. But the people you rely on, like Rozier, Hayward, Ball, if they're not getting double digits consecutively, it's not going to work out for you going forward and getting a high seed. What I'm also disappointed in is Devontae Graham and Malik Monk. Last season they had pretty good seasons last season coming into the league as well. As dark horses, not many people knew much about them, and they were high flying for the Hornets. Them two as individuals, the Hornets didn't do as well last season as well, but they showed parts of their game where they can help the Hornets. And I think Malik Monk got 3 points in this game, and Graham got 7. It just doesn't help, and it doesn't help the fact that that the team believe in these youngsters and are not performing. And I don't see how in the future and for this season how the Hornets get into the playoffs.
Yeah, I'll come on to my added point about the Hornets after. But Wayne, come to you. What do you think about this game?
I think that LA played a perfect game. You're like one of those games where like you watch the team, it's like, yep, this is what they look like when they're running on all cylinders and stuff. Like they played a really good game. They pretty much stopped anything Charlotte was trying to do. And as JP said, like the players, you can't have your guards like not scoring that many points and someone coming off the bench. Like their bench play, they got 30 points coming off the bench compared to the Lakers. Clippers 56. And if you're like a Hornets coach, it's like that's just not good enough. Now they got blown out by the bench play. And fun fact, the Clippers were 100% from the free throw line the whole game.
Wow, that deserves a night off the next day. Mate, we've all been there.
That's crazy stats. What? Sorry, hold on a second. What? I've seen you go closer to 0% than 100.
No, Corey, you meant 100% misses.
Oh yeah, I was going to say that was. I've literally seen this man hit like 14% from the free throw line.
I've seen this man miss the rim.
No. I've never airballed a free throw. That I can tell you for a fact. I overdo it. I just smash it against the ball basically. I've never airballed a free throw. That is a fact. Maybe in training it's a piss take, but in a game I always know I'm just going to hit the ring no matter what. Like that's it. But
yeah, that's your goal. As long as you don't airball it, you're all right.
I know.
You can grab a rebound. Like you can grab a rebound. Like you can't hit a free throw, but you can hit it off and go and get the 2 points.
Yeah, it's a better way. My take from this, I think. Again, I talked so much about the league being such a guard-heavy place. Hornets, unfortunately, when you don't have the top elite level guards going against some elite level guards, you need some other play, which is why I think the likes of Denver, the Lakers, Milwaukee will always do better against Clippers than like other teams, because their play goes inside where it's away from Kawhi Leonard and Paul George and Pat Bev. Hornets, when you think of the Charlotte Hornets, you think of Terry Rozier, you think of LaMelo Ball, you think of Gordon Hayward at the moment. I don't go, oh, I can't wait to watch Bismack go to work on them. Like that just isn't happening. So like, but then you give a night off to the weaker defenders in the Clippers, and who are good defenders. I'm just saying, like, I'd rather put my eggs and go, we're gonna beat a Bucker tonight, than we're gonna have to beat Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. That's the problem in my eyes. And I don't get me wrong, the Hornets are young. The Hornets are looking up at this moment in time.
They're a franchise team currently, aren't they? They're going forward. They've got so many pieces.
Yeah, and they're a team that I look forward to now. Maybe not for the rest of the year, but up until now I did. So that's really our sort of review of last week's games. And just to go over, Wayne bagged 2 wins this weekend. So did I. Corey got the 1. And JP got 0 after a decent 2-week spell, and then come back crashing down to earth. So going into our main topics, before we went into this was a decision made very last minute by Wayne, and I think it's a great topic. We were going to come into the open court and just let people come up with some ridiculous views, and we judge on them. And that's off of, I think, the most outlandish thing I've ever heard. Sorry, and
lived with me for like 3 years.
Yeah, and I've spoken to people all week, and every time I speak to them, I just go, guess what someone said to me the other day? And it's one of the first things I talk about, and I've not heard anyone back your corner, JP. Just saying. All right.
I don't need anyone to back my corner, mate. I just we'll give it a few years. I'll just set the ground.
My other thing. Did anyone ever see that stat about Zion today? It's now like ranked 1 for youngest person with consecutive 20+ games.
Yeah.
We don't need to compare him to schmucks like Anthony Edwards. What are they talking about? Like, don't give me that. There's different leagues to this. So we then decided on doing trades because tomorrow's a trade deadline and there's lots of specials. And actually, I hope it doesn't disappoint. They build this like an English Premier League where we have the deadline day and Jim White with a yellow tie, and they build it that way.
I don't think it will disappoint, but I think what will disappoint is the teams we think will do stuff big 100%,
that won't. 100%. I agree with Corey on that.
I've been sitting there looking through, and I've been sitting there looking through all the rumours and things that are going on. And obviously, my focus, there's really not anything interesting going on for those guys. No, it's just the same rumours of the same players that are rumoured to go to 8 different places because those are the people in the league that people want.
And actually, I think I've been doing my look on it, and this is over the last couple of years to think about it. The teams we want to see trade have already worked out that they've got 10 or 11 players that they don't want to get rid of. And normally what you see at this point is they waive people, they get rid of them and get the money. So then they wait for after the trade deadline to get the buyouts in. And actually, the buyout market should have a deadline day style, because at the moment that's sort of more of a sort of better viewing. But I agree that the teams that we probably want to see, like the Lakers, the Clippers, even the Bucks to an extent, I just don't think will. I think they'll wait and get those pieces in the buyout, because proven already this year, the buyout getting Blake going to Brooklyn is perfect. And actually the Blake they've got there is a Blake who's got a chip on his shoulder ready to win. So that's a decent one. But yeah, so we're going to talk about trades we want to see happen tomorrow on the trade deadline, or when this comes out, it'd be the same time, which is quite interesting. Interesting to see, sorry. I've got some names here that I'm going to throw out where I want to go, but we're going to kick off with Corey. I want to see who you think, I know you said your teams, and I know who do you want them to get? What do you want them to do? What do you think?
So instead of sitting there and going, I'm going to look at 30 teams in the NBA and try and decipher what I want for each, I just thought I'll stick to what I know, and I'll focus heavily on LA. So talking of both sides, Clippers and Lakers. It's no secret there are 2 teams that need to trade. Clippers at the moment that are looking more of a complete unit because they've not really got any injuries and stuff like that. Lakers need to trade, but they're so reluctant to trade anything they've got. So now their discussions are trading pieces that I personally wouldn't trade, and I don't think should be traded, but that's how it works. We're not GMs. We're just sitting and commenting on what they're doing. So personally, I looked into it, and Clippers need like a floor general or a guard that sort of frees up movement on the court for Paul George, for Kawhi, allows them to go and do their thing. And to be honest, they don't really need a guy that's going to go and drop you 30 because they've got players that are averaging 20. Lou Will coming off the bench is going to get you 15 to 20 each night. You've got Kawhi and Paul George are going to get you 20 each night. You don't need that big scorer. They just need a guy that can facilitate a guard, come in, get some assists, hustle on defense, and just play their game. And so probably the best rumor I've seen in terms of what Clippers could be going for was Kyle Lowry. And that was a rumor I've literally read that was fresh through, I think, this afternoon. And I think what a great fit. Bringing him back to play with Kawhi, we already know it works. And then you put in an elite defender in Paul George in front of that. And if you want to go small ball and play those three at the same time, that's something that could happen. In terms of what would have to go the other way, I've not really looked into that. I'm not things, because as we said, it's just things we want to see happen. I'm not worried about the nitty gritties and losing this and this and this. So that's the big one for me.
Before you move on to the next one, I'm going to just jump in and talk about Kyle Lowry now. I think I've got some names here, and Lowry's on my list of names. Okay, and I got this teacher pen, and when you were giving that intro, I circled another name on my list, thinking, oh, okay, Corey's going to talk about that guy, so I don't need to talk about him. So I just circled him. I actually finished the circle, and then you said Lowry, and I had to then circle Lowry's name. I thought you were introducing Lonzo Ball then. I was
second.
So go to that because I've just circled both names.
And it's the same thing goes. It's someone they need across the floor that will happily go and get you 5, 6, 7 assists a game. They will chip in with their points. But there's someone that can control the floor. It's someone that can go, right, I'm taking the ball up. And it frees up Kawhi, because I think a lot of the problem we saw when we saw Clippers lose and we analysed their game recently, it's Paul George has been running the floor. And when that's not his game, I don't think. He needs to be coming off of the screens, off of the dribble, and being given the ball to shoot. And what a better person with good control at the court. Lonzo's shown he's doing it in Pelicans at the moment. He doesn't want to be there. Obviously, LeVar's come out and does what LeVar does and gone, he hates it here. He needs to get away from it. Do I agree? Lonzo Ball's career isn't going to excel in New Orleans. He's not going to become the player he should become and the hype around him in New Orleans. So that was my second one. That was for the Clippers as well.
So I'm a big fan of both of those. JP,
there's also a team similar to the problems that Corey highlighted, in the sense that, I feel they can improve if they had someone who can bring up the ball, and that's Philly. And I think Philly will be looking at both these two guards as well. I think Philly will be looking at Kyle Lowry, and I think they'll also be looking at Lonzo. I think that frees up Simmons to do a bit more off the ball. He can, as soon as he grabs that ball, he can just go to the baseline from the corner. I think it will free up Embiid more in space. And I think the pressure will be off them too. And we've also talked before about, that third superstar, and Lowry in clutch situations, you can back him. And he's been proven to do that in a 7-game series. And I think that experience will see Lowry go towards Doc Rivers and his team.
And he's another player that plays with a chip on his shoulder. He plays with attitude, and he plays with aggression and determination. And I think in basketball, you can teach someone to understand the court. You can teach someone to play a certain play and know where people are going to be. But you can't teach the aggression and the passion. And don't get me wrong, Kyle Lowry isn't an elite player in my eyes. He's not a star in terms of you're going to look at him to build a franchise around, but he's young enough and good enough that you can put him in a team with 2 other stars and go, this guy's good. This guy's really good.
100%. He would be the third option going to Philly, but I think it's what they need. And I think with Doc Rivers at the helm there, I think he can, we know that he's got that tenacity, and we know he's got that passion. And like Corey said, he's got the chip as well. But
there's a bit of weight on that rumor as well. I've seen it online today. There's a bit of weight on that. 76ers and the Heat are the 2 teams that are really looking at him. But then again,
I honestly think Lowry would be the best fit for Philly.
There's also that many rumours, about Lowry today that I'm pretty sure my Sunday League team signing him at centre half. So everyone's been talking about him today.
Before I take my sort of 2 cents on this, Wayne, what do you think about these?
They're not too bad, to be fair. I feel like Lowry to the Philly is probably the best fit for both players because Lowry is really unselfish. He can play off the ball. Like, he's a team oriented player, so that he won't cause any trouble and stuff. And you're right, it will give Ben Simmons that kind of freedom, not to have that much, like, not to have too much pressure on him on the ball and stuff like that.
Yeah, I'm going to come to the Philly bit in a sec, but I'm going to start with the Lowry and Lonzo to the Clips. I think both are an upgrade defensively than Pat Bev and offensively than Pat Bev. I've never bought the Pat Bev. It's a dog. He's got biggest bark, but I don't actually notice what. Like, it's ridiculous. And I think there is a better. Mate, don't give me started. He backs it up. I think Lonzo. I'm a huge Lonzo Ball fan, a massive Lonzo Ball fan, and I think there isn't many in the game who've run a team like him, very similar to Jason Kidd when I was younger to watch. I don't care that he can't shoot or that it's very inconsistent. I'm really not bothered by that. I think he'd be a great fit for the Clippers, Lonzo Ball. So that's one I would definitely want to see. I still like him in New Orleans. I'm a fan, but I think he'd bring more value to the Clippers. My Kyle Lowry one. Kyle Lowry to the Clippers again. Same with Lonzo. I'm a fan. It's like wearing a Pat Bev. There's a pro to Kyle Lowry going to Philly, and there's probably the reason there's a juicy part to it is Lowry is a Philly-born guy. Okay, he is from Philadelphia. That is his team, and there was rumors a couple of years ago that's where he wanted to go back. My issue is I don't see what you guys see. I don't see the fit there. I don't understand why you take the ball out of Ben Simmons' hands. We touched on it last week. Ben Simmons, I've been a massive Ben Simmons fan as well. I don't see many guards in the league actually being able to stop Ben Simmons when he goes downhill. And when he doesn't want to go downhill, give it to Joel Embiid.
You got to think like now in the playoffs when the game's slower, they're just gonna sag off him, which is gonna give pressure off like Embiid. It's gonna put more pressure on Embiid and stuff. So
I get that. I get that. Yeah. I get that idea that they're gonna sag off him, but I think the Philadelphia are now built to deal with that because you've got three shooters in Tobias, Danny Green, Seth Curry. I think they're built for that now. I think because in the playoffs, I'm telling you now, the first 10 possessions that Doc Rivers will run in the playoffs is 5 post-ups to Embiid and then 3 or 4 each or 2 or 3 each for Danny Green, Seth Curry and Tobias Harris to get their shot at the elbow or a free. Ben Simmons will then get given the ball to when everyone else is a bit tired and the game stretches out a little bit in that back end of the first, back end of the second, go run, go put your shoulder into people. I like Kyle Lowry, but I don't see how he makes Ben Simmons better.
He doesn't he stretches the floor for Ben Simmons to now stretch his legs because you got to think in the playoffs.
Who are you taking out? Who are you taking out of that 5? That's what I don't get. Who are you taking out of that 5?
Okay, out of the 3 players you named, Kyle Lowry better than all 3 of them.
No, but you've paid big money for Steph. You've paid big money for Danny Green. You've definitely paid big money for Tobias Harris, and all 3 are providing for you this year.
Danny Green came off the bench down the stretch.
Tobias Harris will stay. I feel like Danny Green. Danny Green have to come off here. I guess like Ben Simmons plays the 2 and Kyle Lowry plays the 1.
But Danny Green is a natural winner. Philly haven't been that far in years, and Danny Green is a man that, albeit everyone absolutely tore him apart because of one game in the playoffs.
He gets carried.
One bad game, and it became a meme. The geezer doesn't care what you lot say. He doesn't care what his haters say. He's got 3 rings already. Can he get a 4th this year with Philly?
I think
there's a strong chance. He knows how to win, and I think trading that up for Kyle Lowry, who effectively won in a team because of a different player they brought in. Kyle Lowry didn't lead them.
You can't say that because I'm going back onto Wayne's point. When it comes to the playoffs, the tempo of the game changes drastically, and if they have fans back as well, Kyle Lowry understands that. He understands a fast break. He understands how to get that and 1 quickly. I think
he isn't as quick as Ben Simmons with the ball. And
I know, but
mentally he knows what to do quickly. He understands the game a lot more.
This is where I think there's a bit of confusion because, like, not just I think with this, just because you win once doesn't mean you're mentally strong enough. The amount of years.
It's just the fact
the amount of years he got kicked out, the amount of years and the amount of games he played so poorly in Toronto, week in or like in the playoffs, year from year. And yeah, granted, I think he grew up and that year they won it. I'm not taking away from any championship. they, it wasn't. I don't think one good championship year makes you a winner. Pascal Siakam, I'm still not taking ahead of Anthony Davis, and they've both won one ring.
Yeah, of course.
Davis is built
it's not
differently.
that. It's just the fact that look, like Kyle Lowry, like the playoffs aren't made for Ben Simmons and the Giannis
100%.
game. So you're gonna need a
100%.
player like Kyle Lowry. Not saying he's an ultimate winner,
Mm.
but he's good enough to make your team phenomenal in the playoffs. In the regular season, you can bench him if you really want to. It doesn't really matter. But in the playoffs,
I agree with this.
Those are the
But it's what we're
players
talking about
who have
here.
so much value.
Is
Kyle Lowry could not win with DeMar
you're taking a
DeRozan
winning
because they're
formula.
kind of the same players. They're good players. They don't they're good players, but they're not great enough. They need someone better to bring them
100%.
up.
I get where you're coming from.
Ben Simmons, I'm not gonna lie. If you saw the players last season, if they had a Seth Curry in the team that last season, I guarantee you Seth Curry would be more vital than Ben Simmons. Ben Simmons will be the decoy in that team. Seth Curry will be running the show. Because Ben Simmons cannot shoot. Everyone's just going to sag off.
This leads on to the point.
And Embiid is pretty much useless.
So we're talking about the three of Danny Green, Seth Curry, and Tobias Harris. Tobias Harris, who's averaging 20 at the moment.
He's not leaving that team.
Right. So Danny Green, natural.
Danny Green shouldn't be in a starting five in the playoffs. It's as simple as that.
We're not saying that. We're talking about the rotation of those three. Who are you dropping for Kyle Lowry? What is Kyle Lowry bringing to those three?
No, Kyle. So it'd be Kyle and Seth, and you play Simmons at the 3, and that's and then Tobias at the 4, and then Embiid at the 5, and that's
so my issue is Ben Simmons is only good with the ball in his hand. Okay, defensively, that's him. I think elite. Offensively, he's only good with the ball in his hand. I get that they will sag off him in the playoffs, and playoff games are different. It is more defensive, the 5 inside in the 3-point line, and they close out and whatnot. But this is the first time Giannis doesn't win, but Ben Simmons doesn't win. But no, it's not because how does Giannis play? He plays downhill. Ben Simmons Ben Simmons now has a back to the basket who will stay there in Joel Embiid and a coach who will make sure the ball goes in there. Joel Embiid is getting to the line more than most. I think he's him or Harden are the number ones in the league, right? So they will feed Joel Embiid, and Ben Simmons will be the one to make that pass. I think if you take away don't look at Ben Simmons' points. Look at what he does running the floor. If you're not having him bring the ball up, don't have him in your team.
But then it'll become a case of, let's just say in the playoffs, hypothetically, that in the Eastern Conference Finals, it's Philly against the Nets, right? And it becomes an outright shoot slinger, right? And
who defends Joel Embiid on that Nets team?
DeAndre Jordan, or you stick KD on him. I know it won't happen.
Drop 50 on him.
What I'm saying
is, you put KD on him.
Embiid will drop 50 on anyone, though.
But he will. So you don't need Kyle Lowry.
No. Don't look at it from an individual aspect, right? So look at it in the fact that it's going to be an outright offensive game, right? And you're trying to chase nets in the amount that they're scoring, and it becomes a case of where Embiid turns into Lopez and he starts shooting these 3-pointers. They're trying to chase the game, and it doesn't work in Philly's It doesn't work to Philly's case, and it just won't work. Whereas Kyle Lowry, that other threat, where you've got the sharpshooters of Tobias Harris there, then you've got Seth Curry next to him, and you can pick and pop it out to them. Not just Embiid who can do the pick and roll. I think Kyle Lowry adds more to their game in slowing down the tempo of the game, controlling the 7-7 game series against the Brooklyn Nets.
As an overview, right, a serious question. If you take the comparison of the two trades. Right, I'm not talking about stats. I'm not talking about anything else. I'm just talking if you compare trade A to trade B. So Kyle Lowry going to the Clippers or Kyle Lowry going to 76ers, which team does he make fundamentally better and improve drastically? I personally tell you now, it's not the 76ers.
I personally think the 76ers. 100%.
The Sixers is a better fit. It's just a much, much better fit. Because look, I'm not gonna lie, Kyle Lowry all established he's a good player, not a great player. You know, he's a good, solid player.
He's a very good playoff player, though.
What's Reggie Jackson? Is Reggie Jackson a scrub? Reggie Jackson's a damn good player, but you're not talking about getting another point guard like Lonzo Ball, like Kyle Lowry. Reggie Jackson is a starting point guard in most teams that doesn't have an elite point guard. Like, you lot are like making it seem like they ain't got a point guard in the Clippers. He's not improving that team drastically at all.
No, I think Kyle Lowry
by a little bit.
I agree with that. I agree with that drastically.
He's improving it a lot, much more.
What? No, I think if we're taking Kyle Lowry, you get rid of the point guard in that team, and that's Pat Bev. Kyle Lowry's definitely better than Pat Bev. I think I'm a huge fan of Reggie Jackson as actually either a starter or coming off the bench for that team. He's worked out the role either way.
He can play.
No, but no way am I taking you. If we go like if you get Kyle Lowry, there's no point having Ben Simmons.
And
I don't think that Philly are better that way.
I personally feel like
them two together.
I personally feel like there's no point in the Clippers getting Kyle Lowry if they've got Lou Williams sitting on the bench. Like I don't.
No, but he's always a bench player.
He's not a floor general. The Clippers are missing someone to lead the game.
But he's six man for a reason. He's six man for a reason. He comes on in the coach and he controls the game.
Lou Williams is nothing but a bench scorer.
No,
he is a great bench scorer. He is not.
Next player.
If he was an elite floor general guard, I'm talking floor general, and I'm going to keep repeating it until it sinks in. Floor general, he's not that because he's starting. He's not starting. Floor general start. They run the game. But then he's coming off the bench because that's what he does.
And then finally, this goes back to Tom's point of having the ball in Ben Simmons' hands. It doesn't work for Philly with Ben Simmons being the floor general because it doesn't work for the Bucks when Giannis is also the floor general.
All they do my point is when we look at the Bucks and why it doesn't work for Giannis is because he doesn't have anyone to pop. Like Giannis is a scorer. Ben Simmons isn't. Ben Simmons steps there and plays to Joel.
We're saying it doesn't work.
Look, we could do
Hold on, just one more thing. Right? We're saying it doesn't work because Giannis being a floor general, right? How many teams has he dropped 40 plus on this year from running the ball up the court?
Regular season court.
That doesn't matter.
It's still half a regular season to go into playoffs. You're missing 40 games.
Come on, Corey. You know better than that. It's the playoffs. When the playoffs come calling, he's never shown up in the playoffs. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, but it's like saying that all of his accolades are discredited because he's never won a championship. It's not. He's still been a defensive player of the year. He's still been a 2-time MVP. You're talking about him as if he's some seventh man coming off the bench and can't score against a few teams. He outplays on his own 20 teams in the NBA.
I get that, but it becomes a case in a 7-game series. Go on, man.
In the playoffs, it's all about matchups. You know, you look at a game plan. You know exactly how to stop Giannis. He's either going to drive.
Thank you. You know what he's going to do. It's simple as that, and it's the same as Simmons. It's the same as Simmons.
We're comparing the number one scorer in one team to the point guard.
So we're now comparing a team who are playoff ready in what they've got to a team who has repeatedly been awful in the playoffs and can't get past the second round. Kyle Lowry is going to be more beneficial to the Clippers than he is to 76ers.
All right, moving on. Wayne, actually, just on Kyle Lowry, it's not about Philly. My other team that I was interested, we don't have to talk about it. The other team I was interested in seeing going to was Miami, which is the trade I keep seeing. That actually is the one that pops up more on my phone and sort of list of teams. And actually, I would love to see a court of Lowry and Butler. I think that'd be quite interesting to see. Just as the way they work as a two would be, I'm not sure I'd want to play against them. Wayne, I'm coming to you. Who did you look at as trades you wanted to see?
Okay. Before I get to my point, I think that's a good team, like for Kyle Lowry to go to. But I feel Toronto will ask for either Bam or Tyler Hero, in which Miami will say no way.
I agree. I think Tyler Hero would be the one. If anyone wants to get off, if Miami want anyone, Tyler Hero and Kendrick Nunn are your two that you always ask for. Like they're good young players. Wayne, who are you saying then?
In terms of trade rumors, I always look at Celtics. That's my team, and I always think, what can we do to be better? And there's a lot of trade rumors around Aaron Gordon. Gordon, he requested a trade from Orlando. He doesn't want to be there, but he's committed to playing the rest of the season. But ideally, he wants to go. And there's been a lot of buzz around Celtics picking him up. And I think it's a good trade, not a great trade. Would I want it to happen? Yes, but again, with teams like this, Danny Ainge, he's not going to give up Marcus Smart. And I feel like every team who wants to trade with Celtics, they're going to ask for one player, Marcus Smart, unless it's like a lot of draft picks. The only way I see it happening is if we give up one player, not Marcus Smart, and obviously not the core, and a first-round draft pick. Anything more than that, I'll say, I don't know, man. But it depends whether Danny Ainge wants to make a plunge and add another second pick there, or just leave it and stuff.
Yeah, I agree with the Celtics. I said off to JP and Corey earlier, I've never bought the Aaron Gordon hype, but
Yeah, same.
I'd be interested to see him in a decent team to see what he does. My name for the Celtics, and in the first episode we did of this, me and you, Wayne, we spoke about Vucic. I've now gone off of the Vucic idea, and I there's one player that's it's been reported to come out or wanting a trade, and I think he'd be a sneaky. Is actually LaMarcus Aldridge.
No, I don't want him, man.
So, but what I'm getting at is he's not going to win you the championship, but he's going to take you to a little bit more extra than what you are getting from Tyson, Tristan Thompson. And I think what we need as a Celtics is a big who can score. And I just don't think if you're not getting Vucic, I think Aldridge is the next one. Do you know what I'm trying to say? It's not I want Vucic, don't get me wrong. That's again, write down what you want, and as long as it's not the core and Marcus Smart, you can have it. Like type situation. But I just think Aldridge is the next level where you can get someone decent without giving up too much.
See, in today's game, Aldridge does not fit at all. Like, see, Vucevic fits it. Like, players can shoot free. So Aldridge is a 2 mid-range jump shot shooting, and if he misses, that's a bad shot. If he makes
he's a product of that old Spurs team, isn't he? He's a product of Greg Popovich and the Tim Duncan era. That's how he learned his game. But
yeah, even when he was in Portland, he played like that, and it's like it's not good enough. It's not good enough to be in a Celtics. You know, you want threes, dunks, and D. That's all you really need right now. That's like the formula to make a perfect team. Like 3 dunks and D.
Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that's the one I'd want. It's if you can't get anyone, who do I feel would do us a decent job for the rest of the season? Like that's my guy. That's sort of my person there. My next one is, and I know we've spoken a lot about him, is Porzingis or Miles Turner are my 2 that I want to see the Celtics pick up. I'm so high on the Miles Turner train.
Same.
I'm so into it. Same. I think what he brings, I spoke about him defensively last week, but his dunks, he's always there for an alley-oop. Do you know what, if you watch the Nets and James Harden and Trae Young does it, it's that little alley-oop right in the key, which I've not seen Boston do that for a while. Like,
it's funny you say that, Tom. I feel like that Miles Turner is a better fit than Vucevic for the Celtics. He's a much better fit.
He's around the rim player, which
and
is I think what
that's
Celtics
the guy I
need
looked
more.
at first, the trades. Like before the Vucevic, the big buzz of Vucevic and stuff like that, Miles Turner was the one we were supposed to get in with the Gordon Hayward trade.
Yeah.
Like stuff like that, but we didn't get him, unfortunately. But
and you said about your winning formula of threes, Ds, and dunks, 3D and dunks. He can do all 3.
Yeah. And so high on the Miles Turner train
as well. It's not like he's just he can do them. It's like
he's
good at shooting from 3. He's great around the rim, and he's an elite defender.
Yeah, the thing is with Miles Turner, I don't understand, because he's a really good player, but he just doesn't show up.
No.
That's the thing. I feel like maybe it's because of the team he's in, but he just doesn't show up like as much.
No, which is weird though, Wayne. It's weird because he doesn't sort of jump out at you. But if you ever look at his stats, you go, "Wow, all right, like that's a player we want." Like, do you know what I mean? It's a weird one, isn't it? It's very
it's good stats, but it's not under the radar. More.
Yeah, it's so under the radar that I'm like, I would love to see him in a really good coached team like the Celtics. Like we're having our struggles, I know that, but I back us as a franchise to do all right with that. So yeah, I agree. I think the Celtics, as we said, that sort of area there is so I'm quite intrigued by that in terms of who the Celtics will get. I'm going to go down to JP now. What's your trade you want to see?
Well, I'm going to cheat a bit because of time. So I'm going to go back to your first point on buyouts and after the trade deadline. I think that as Corey touched upon, I'd love to see a big go to LA. And I think the only way that's going to happen now is in a buyout. And we're looking at the man in Cleveland in terms of Andre Drummond. I think it's what we want to see in terms of, again, as we mentioned in a previous episode, in terms of pushing a narrative for the Lakers v Nets. And I think that's the only way it becomes a fair matchup now, especially with LeBron being injured. Again, there's always worry of these injuries that these guys have reoccurring. I think that even if they pick up Boogie as well, I think if he gets bought out, I think there's no harm in picking up 2 more bigs, especially the way that the Lakers are sitting now. Boogie knows the team, knows the offense, knows the defense. And I think Drummond, again, another stat man, the amount of rebounds he gets each game, it only helps your team, because especially the way that the Lakers play, where you've got, them Hail Mary passes from LeBron to AD, AD to LeBron, what better way to have that in a guy who gets like 20 rebounds every other game? So,
See, the things with that one, that's a really good trade, but I have a feeling Cleveland ain't gonna buy him out if he's gonna go to the Lakers, because like Dan Gilbert does not. I mean, the owner of the Cleveland does not like LeBron James.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
And I feel like they'll go if it's known that he's gonna go to Lakers. I feel like he's not gonna buy him out. He'll much rather buy him out and him go.
Of course, it becomes a power struggle then, doesn't it? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and as saying that, Rob Pelinka is not very liked in the NBA as well, so it's quite hard to make trades with him in the first place.
Yeah.
He's done a very good job, but
That's the problem. That's what I said earlier, wasn't it? Like Pelinka's not willing to trade anyone other than Trez or THT. That's it.
Yeah.
Those are the only two pieces he's willing to trade at the moment. And you think your team is struggling now. Like you're not a championship team now. Not with AD and LeBron injured. LeBron can carry you through 20 games and still get you 12 to 15 wins. But they can't do that without them two pieces. So he needs to be a bit more fluid and he needs to be a bit less rigid.
I'm a big fan of the Drummond and Cousins. I agree, JP. I think the more bigs they can get, the better. I also think maybe not Cousins now, but Drummond is definitely that player that LeBron, the way he plays is a LeBron type big. You look at everywhere LeBron's gone, he wanted, even to the fact that LeBron had Joel Anthony start for the Miami Heat in that big free era, who, yeah, exactly, Joel Anthony, that is it. Yeah, that's what I mean. It's not, and then he got Tristan Thompson that big contract because he did that job. He made sure he went and got Kev Love because the year before he was averaging 20 and 20. He loves a guy who does the dirty work, so LeBron doesn't have to. That is LeBron, and I think Drummond fits that build so well.
Yeah, and I'm going to go on to the guards now as well. And I'd like to see JJ Redick be brought out by the Pels and him go to a championship team. I'd like to see that. Is it a case of do the Bucks go back to having 4 sharpshooters and one of them being Redick now? They did it. They tried to do it with Kyle Korver a few seasons ago. I don't know. I just feel like he's got a lot more to give to the league, and I feel like there's something still there for JJ Redick, and I feel like he can help a championship team out.
Yeah, I'll agree massively. To be honest,
value. That guy's got value.
And he'll be a cheap piece on a buyout contract.
On a vet contract. Yeah. What's the harm in taking
cheap piece?
Huh?
No, I completely agree. As I said, I was just saying he'll be a cheap piece. He's not going to take up much cap space on a buyout, especially on a vet contract. Restrict his minutes maybe, but that's good dealings. Yeah. Any team that picks him up are picking up a playoff ready player. I'm not saying he's going to go and be the reason you win a championship, but 100%. He can be that player that comes on and chips in 2-3 threes when it's crunch time, and then you sit him for the rest of the game. 100%. So we need it
because the way I see it is, it's a case of another team having their own Joe Harris. Like I mentioned previously, Joe Harris is going to be vital for the Nets. Even if he comes off the bench, he's going to pick up double-digit points throughout playoff series. And I think that teams can get that in JJ Redick. I'm not saying this will happen and come to fruition. I'm not saying, he's definitely going to help a team. He's going to be the catalyst that the team needs. No.
This is the caption. But
there's no harm.
The team should do.
100%. There's no harm in any team picking up this guy.
The thing is with JJ Redick, he doesn't need to score 10 points, whatever. He can just run around the court and just tire up the other point guard, the other shooting guards, and that's already enough. In a physical, slow down game, you don't want to be running around guarding someone, and then now you got to focus on bringing the ball up. And I know that from experience, man. I hate guarding Lonzo running around. He might not have got the ball, but you have to respect his shot.
Yeah,
and by the time now the ball's inbound, and you're like, damn, I got to bring this ball up again. Nah.
For the people watching, Lonzo is actually a guy called Taka that we know, but he shoots like Lonzo because of his broken wrist. So,
for me, I'm not massively sold on a JJ Redick. I was nearly going to say that until JP, that last bit you added then. He isn't the catalyst for a team. He's going to be a decent pick, isn't he? He's a pickup, as in if you plug him in for 2 minutes and he gives you something, he gives you something. It's not and I like that version of JJ Redick, but. So it's quite interesting. I think the buyout market's going to be intriguing. My one player, so I have got names down here. I've got Brad Beal, Zach LaVine, Porzingis, and I think those three are me being really hopeful. I don't see them being moved on. I think they're actually quite settled.
Brad Beal's come out and said he has no intentions of letting Washington trade him.
And rumour has it he's had a word with Brooks, get me a 10-day. my other person, and he's been very quiet. He's barely played this year. Is Victor Oladipo. I want to see Vic at the Lakers because I think he's an upgrade on KCP. He's not upgrade any guard they have in that building, and also in a injury-hidden Lakers team without a LeBron, without a Davis, a decent Lakers team that they've got with Victor Oladipo picks up those games that they're missing. I'm not saying
he's proven to shine, isn't he? In those moments where teams are looking down and out, and they're not no one's expecting anything from them. He's like, I'll show you.
Yeah, and
That's what he's done his whole career.
Yeah, I think with LeBron, you have to prove it against LeBron. And again, a couple of years ago, Oladipo's Indiana team, that first year he was there, they took him to 7, didn't they? In my memory, that first, and LeBron had to turn up in that game 7 in Cleveland. But so Victor Oladipo is my one guy I want to see get moved on because those Houston Rockets, and I like John Wall, what he's doing in Houston. He seems to have gone, I need to prove that I'm still an elite point guard. So by doing that, I'm not going to sulk and whine. I need to make this Houston team better. So I'm all in for that. And I don't think Oladipo's at that point. Oladipo doesn't need to prove. I think Oladipo needs to go somewhere and be the Oladipo that he could be.
He's been bounced around average teams for too long.
But the problem is he's been put in trades. I agree. He's been bounced around average teams. He's been put in trades where bigger pieces get moved. He was the piece that moved from Indiana for from OKC to Paul George. And then he was moved in that Indiana team to Houston because it was a bigger, the moving pieces were better. I don't unfortunately, he's been in trades where just a better player has been in there. And he's been victim to that, I think, more than people. I don't think there's a negative flaw on Oladipo that's getting him moved on. There's clearly players in history that you get moved on because you don't want him in your team. Like your Michael Beasley's played, Lance Stevenson played for 12 teams because no one wants him in their team.
Trevor Ariza now is the most traded player in history, isn't he?
Yeah.
11. I think he's had 11 teams, but he's had more trades than 11 teams.
But again, with that, he's had a decent sort of career.
Guys, you need to watch out for this trade. I forgot to add it. Wayne Maseko to the Lakers. I've got insider. I've actually DM'd LeBron James. Yeah, I'll send it to you, Tommy. I've actually DM'd LeBron James. And I've given him a scenario, and I told him to get back to Rocklinka. He hasn't got back to me yet, but the trade deadline is coming soon.
I'm still waiting for my reply, to be fair, Wayne. I'll message him, I think, 2 days before you, or no? I maybe had a few drinks and I messaged him, tell him I loved him.
So send him, what was your scenario then, Wayne?
I told him if he trades up a couple of guards, free up some cap space, he can get a good big, and then he can pick me up for the low. And, I'm a proven player. I told him I'll Scott Brooks and Martin, and they can vouch for me as well. So, yeah.
Hey, I'm telling you now, I'm definitely getting that 10-day at Washington. That's a fact.
Can I just say, I feel like there's no context behind this Scott Brooks joke, and people that actually understand basketball are just thinking, why are they so obsessed with Scott Brooks? Can we post the video that he did for us?
Yeah, I'll give a brief summary.
Because there's people watching this that love basketball that are going, I know basketball, I know Scott Brooks, not as in personally, but I know Scott Brooks and I understand coaching and stuff. Why do they keep talking about him? Of all coaches to talk about, why is Scott Brooks?
We're going to have to drop it. We're going to have to.
I think the biggest story will come up with a later show when we get hold of Martin to come on actually and probably tell us the full story. But the brief story is our old university coach and mentor, I'm going to throw out the Mr. Miyagi to most of us, is Martin. And
it didn't work for me, did it?
No,
he just looked at me and went, there's no hope.
you were the negative side of Martin. So Martin, he was out in America as a kid, was a Seattle Supersonics fan, and followed them. Then went out to America when they became OKC, and the coach of Oklahoma City Thunder was Scott Brooks at the time, and that was the young Durant, Westbrook, Harden phase. And the story goes, and I get Martin to tell us better, but he was there early for an Oklahoma City Thunder game when they were the worst team in the league. And a steward, I think, went, why are you here all the way from England supporting Oklahoma City Thunder, in disbelief? Martin told him why. And then the guy went back to Scott Brooks and went, oh, by the way, the geezer from London, from down in Eastbourne or Brighton in England here to support. And Scott Brooks basically went, come, let me meet him. I think he took him back into the change room, met some players. And then from that point on, Martin and Scott became like as close as people could be. And then fast forward, they kept in contact for years. Martin, I know I think Martin and Tash spent their like honeymoon in New York, following the thunder around. We've all been to that infamous toilet that has all the pictures and memorabilia, the shrine.
The crazy bit about it is like when Coach goes to America, he goes and stays with Scott Brooks. Like,
yeah, and last year he was out there I think he went out on his own and he stayed with Brooks and did that training camp ahead of the year 2 years ago, something like that, something ridiculous like that. But then the year we went on to win it, so if you go back to our reunion chat, the year we won it in 2018, Martin was in contact that whole time with Scott and said, we're doing well. Because I think this is another crazy thing, and I love this, and like it wasn't sort of said about enough. Martin and Scott stayed so much in contact that Scott knew about our wins the same day they happened. So like every week it was like Martin and Scott would text and Martin, oh yeah, we won again today. Like he knew about us and it was quite cool. And then Scott Brooks sent us a video when we won, where it was confirmed, sort of congratulating us and winning, and sort of having that. I remember getting the message sent to us and it was just awesome. And I'll post it up on Instagram page later on, or I might wait till Martin is on and we'll do it then.
To do the Martin special.
But Martin will tell that story better and sort of give us a bit more detail about what he saw and all that. But that is where the Scott Brooks comes from. And the reason I feel I'm forefront for this 10-day is he's friends with Martin. Martin made me, so I think I'm in that position for the 10-day. It's not talent-wise. If he trusts Martin, he's putting me in.
And the great thing is when Martin comes on and does his bit, everyone that's watched and has listened to me talk about basketball, when it comes to him being on, people are going to think I've never watched a basketball game in my life because he's going to tear me apart. I don't care what anyone says. I'm just as integral to that team as players that didn't even get minutes. I'm more important to that team to players that didn't get minutes. I'm not joking. People that suited up and played and didn't play any minutes for the team.
You're not lying. I'm not gonna lie. You're not even lying.
I am more integral to that team. I used to ruin people off the court. I would get in their heads and they would lose games because their star player would be too busy trying to argue with me on the sideline.
I also think no, that was always baffled me. It always felt people thought you must have been the injured player who couldn't play today, and people were like, "Oh yeah, he's getting us. Yeah, he can play."
Who's this 5'6" guy having a go?
Mate, you've had an injury.
JP, I've won more games than you have, and I never put a kit on.
No, that's a lie. He did once.
Once. I only did it for the Instagram picture. Because we were 20 points up. Corey, do you want to come on? Bear in mind, I was coaching. Corey, do you want to come on? No, it was too quick for me.
That was a quick day. So that's the story of the Martin and Scott Brooks part, and that's the trade we want. And Bradley Beal, Russ Westbrook, Tom Calverley, what a team. So we now got to the point within a preview and sort of them gives us the opportunity for a competition over the weekend. And I'd actually love this part. This is my weekend when I wake up early on the days just to make sure I can see how I've done. If I'm asleep, I'm asleep, but I'm waking up early to make sure I'm all right. And I normally check NBA before I check the group chat because I don't want to go in there unarmed, knowing if I've lost or won. Like I double check.
The past few weekends, like my first thing to do when I wake up is NBA into Safari.
Yeah. And then... So I usually sit there and watch it.
Yeah, see me and Corey awake, so we know what's going on.
Yeah, me and Wayne don't sleep.
You two awake. No. There's no I'm doing that. I'm falling asleep after this. So the games, I'm going to move over to JP here. So JP, over to you in terms of previewing the first game. We'll get our pick. We'll go with what we want, and then you do the second. Over to you.
Yes, so I believe the first game that we're going to preview is the Miami Heat against the Charlotte Hornets. Now, again, I'm picking a team from last week, but it just adds that new dimension of are we going to base them off what they did, last weekend for us? Are we going to go pick them again, or are we going to go against them? I'm also looking at what Trevor Ariza is going to do. It looks like Miami Heat picked him up because they want their second version of Andre Iguodala there. And they want to go back to that systematic ball and Ariza's no joke on the defensive end as well. it's a hard one, really. And I think I'm going to take into account that LaMelo Ball's out as well, and that facilitator that the Hornets are lacking now, and I believe they've just come off an L. I think the Heat will take the win in this.
So JP, you're in Miami. Corey, what about you?
I usually would have comfortably gone with Heat, and I'd actually bet on the Heat yesterday as well to win. I watched them play last night. They could not, and I mean, they managed to drop 100 because the other team stopped defending towards the last 6 minutes of the fourth quarter, right? But going into the fourth, they'd only dropped like 70 points, right? They literally could not hit a single shot. And I'm not sure what was going on. But despite that, I do feel like what JP said with on the defensive end, with picking up Ariza, another vet scrappy defender, and I can't see a repeat of the Heat being as bad as they were last night. So for me, it's going to be the Heat.
Okay, JP, Corey for the Heat. Wayne, who you going?
It's tight, man. My head's telling me the Heat, my heart's telling me the Hornets, man. And it's always like this. Which one do you always listen to?
Mate, you never listen to either.
Well, you're not wrong.
He listens to whatever comes out of his mouth.
Yeah.
Have I just said that? Yeah, I'm going with it.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Miami, man.
Ooh,
I'm gonna go with Miami. Play it safe. Man.
All right. So that's
Tom
3 on Miami.
Power move here.
Tom, just go for Hornets. Come on, make it.
So I just want to read out. So Tuesday the 23rd, Miami played Phoenix. Thursday the 25th, Miami played Portland. Friday the 26th, Miami played Charlotte. Because of the fixture run and the back-to-back, I'm going to Charlotte Hornets. Because of the back-to-back, the fact they go in, they've got to play. They've just played Phoenix, hard game. They've then got to play Portland, and now they're playing I'm going Charlotte. That's kind of, if you're wrestling anyone, you're wrestling in Charlotte. So I'm going Charlotte. So that is 3 for the Miami Heat.
Why are you going to rest them in perhaps the easiest game out of the 3? Why would you rest them?
Why would you rest against Portland? You wouldn't. You want to win that one, don't you? Like you're gonna after that week, you're gonna go, look, take a breather. I'm telling you, Charlotte Hornets are taking it.
But Jimmy Buckets is there thinking, who have I really got to guard on the Hornets? Do you know what I mean? Like,
I see, Tom. I actually thought about the back-to-backs and stuff like that. Yeah, when I saw it. The reason why I didn't pick the Hornets is because I just don't trust them to win the game.
I'm telling you now, back-to-backs is the best way to look at it because
I know I do.
JP, I get you saying.
I'm in the league all the time.
JP,
I look the last week of games and stuff, but I can't trust.
JP, I get what you're saying with like Jimmy Butler. Why would he take that night off? Because he's just had to guard CP and Devin Booker, and then CJ and Dame. Of course, he's going to take a night off. He's come off a bit of an injury. Charlotte are taking that.
Yeah, but you say
second game.
But last night he only played 26 minutes yesterday. So last night was his rest night coming into a few big games.
Yeah, he played
22 and 22.
Jimmy doesn't take a night off. Jimmy doesn't take a night off. You know how
take Jimmy out of it. The other players do. The Charlotte Hornets haven't got anything to play. Actually, the Charlotte Hornets now have more to play for because there's players that didn't have minutes and now got to get them.
I'm not worried about this next game.
Game 2.
Game 2 is going to be, again, we're going for a previous team in the LA Clippers against the Philadelphia 76ers. Now, we touched on these two teams a lot tonight. And I'm just hoping, Corey mentioned that Sunday is like, it came to fruition where they strangled Charlotte defensively. And what Corey thinks now is they're going to go on the back of this and they're going to go on a serious run and, create a nerve throughout the NBA league. But I just think the narrative's there for Doc Rivers to go against his former team. Joel Embiid, hopefully, if he comes back, I don't know if he'll be back in time. I doubt it. There's just so many narratives with this game, but I am going to go with Doc Rivers coming up on one against the LA Clippers, and I'm going for a Philly W.
Okay, JP going for the Philadelphia 76ers. Wayne, over to you.
Oh dear, JP, you're never going to win this competition, man. Because,
has he looked at the back-to-back?
You're not thinking logically,
man. At the fixtures?
There's okay, let's say best case scenario, Joel Embiid plays that game. He's going to be in a minutes restriction. he's going to play less minutes because he just come out back from injury. They put him on minutes restrictions every year anyway. Do you really think Joel Embiid on the minutes restriction is going to beat Clippers with no issues?
No, but I just don't see. I'm basing it off the Clippers this season, and they haven't ever gone on a run this season. They had a few good games, and it started obviously opening up against LA, and then if anything, they've gone on a drought and they've gone on a run of games where Kawhi doesn't show up or PG doesn't show up.
JP, listen to what I said last week, right? There has to be a turning point. There's a point in Clippers season where the game's going to go, oh, actually, we can play this team now. They're missing a star. We've got no injuries. We've got no restrictions. We've got no problems right now. Right? I'm just throwing it out there. You make your decision, mate. Just throw it out there.
I'm looking at if Ben Simmons turns up, and obviously the matchup is he going to guard PG or is he going to guard Kawhi? Because
whoever's hot, I guess.
But
I'm gonna go with the Clippers.
But who's
Clippers, Wayne? Yeah.
Who's more likely to become hot?
JP's going Philly.
Who's more likely to become hot? And I'm banking on none of them becoming hot that night.
So Wayne, you're going Clips, yeah?
Yeah.
Corey, I'm going to you.
When JP said the games, and this is head, heart, obviously Clippers were a team that I've always followed. I instantly went, I think 76ers are going to win that game. And I know every single time I've second guessed myself this year, I've lost. And what I thought originally, especially when it comes to like All-Star Weekend and stuff, my first pick, I would have had 4 from 6, but I second guessed myself. But from what I said last week, I believe now is the time it's going to happen for Clippers. If they're going to do it, and they're going to go on a run at any point in the season, it's going to be now.
Wait, sorry to interrupt you, but let me just get this straight. So I believe you said 2 weeks ago, you're not going to second guess yourself. And you've gone and second guessed yourself. Yeah. And now this will happen.
Yeah.
And I can't wait to backfire.
JP, you've got to get used to what Corey says definitely only lasts once or 1 week or 2 weeks. It never lasts too long, mate. Trust me.
My brain works in 3-week cycles at a very maximum.
No, I just can't wait for this to happen, for Philly to win and then be like, I wish I did this. And it's just
right. So Embiid's probably not going to be back. If he is, it's going to be on a restriction. There's no one else really in that team. If Kawhi and Paul George are going to go for 20 plus regardless, it's whether they go and get 30 plus to beat the 76ers, right? Tobias Harris, the same sort of player, is going to drop you 20. You know that, right? It's stopping him getting 30. So who's going to guard Kawhi? It's no secret. Simmons is going to go against Kawhi. Kawhi is going to go against Simmons. Kawhi is going to out-defend Simmons in terms of he's going to limit Simmons' points, but is Simmons going to limit Kawhi's points to 12, to 14? I don't think he will. So just based off that single matchup alone, and then Embiid being injured, Ben Simmons is guarding me. I'll pass it to Paul George. He'll hit a free from logo. He don't care. Clippers are taking the dub.
All right.
Can I just mention a matchup as well? We did mention the other week that Kawhi's got knees like Wayne. So I do feel that Ben Simmons will lock down Kawhi. But obviously, out of the two, if someone was to go off, I believe it will be PG.
I agree with you. Paul George is going to win that game.
Yeah, if the Clippers are not going to win that game, it's going to be PG.
Knees like Wayne, knees like Kawhi. People Wayne knees will always prevail.
I mean, I was really
hoping no knees since 2001, and he's still dunking.
Wayne, I was really hoping that was going to rhyme. I was like, well up for that. I thought it was going to be your own jingle from that point on. I was like, come on. I'm not sure what you could have rhymed it with. This is really hard. I've gone back so many times. So again, I have my little notes page, and these little scribbles down here in red are who we've picked. Okay, and this was a scribble of my name. This was also a scribble of my name. I've changed it 3 times already in this segment. As soon as I saw the teams, I went with the Clips, okay? And then we had our Ben Simmons, Kyle Lowry chat, and I thought, no, I am not going against Ben Simmons. But then I sat back and realised, actually, the Clippers are the Clippers. And traditionally, I don't know if this will come out in the next game. Yes, Ben Simmons is the best defender in their team. But you look at the Lakers last year, you look at whenever the Lakers picked up the Clippers last year, who guarded Kawhi Leonard? Danny Green. Danny Green knows how to guard Kawhi Leonard. Okay, and I think I agreed. Ben Simmons Leonard would be an exciting matchup. I reckon Simmons will be on George, and I think Danny Green will Kawhi Leonard. And because of that,
but Danny Green's not going to play 35 minutes.
But because of that, I'm going the Clippers because unfortunately the Clippers don't have the offensive of Joel Embiid. Joel Embiid's not playing that game. There's no way Joel Embiid's playing that game. If you're bringing Joel Embiid back, that's not the game you're bringing him back to. Wayne's right. Minute restriction. You imagine have to tell Joel Embiid with 5 minutes left of his restrictions, we're really close in this game. You've got to sit. It isn't happening. It's not worth the stress. So I'm joining Corey and Wayne on the Clippers here.
Who's sorry, Tom? Who's Tobias guarding then? If Danny Green's going on.
So it's a good question. I don't know, but I'm just going on tradition here of when I've watched Danny Green, the Lakers games, Clippers last year. Green was always the one that was put on Kawhi. I think it's changed a bit because Kawhi's game now is very much in the post, like even more so in the post than it was. And I think that's why it was always suited to Green. And I think Green's probably a decent defender on him, which also, as I said, frees up Tobias Harris. And I actually don't think Harris is a decent enough defender for that matchup. I think he's benefited off of size, being longer, being stronger than other players that he's put up against. But that's why I think I'm going Clippers because I think whoever Danny Green does settle on, I think that person will go hot. And if they swap out on Ben Simmons, the other person will go hot. Ben Simmons, if you had two Ben Simmons, this game's close.
Yeah.
But you don't. So just to recap, Miami Heat against the Hornets. I'm on my own going with the Charlotte Hornets. You three with the Heat. Then the Clips at 76ers. Or the other way around, not sure. We got three of us, myself, Corey and Wayne, up against JP with the 76ers. Both games are actually going to be really decent. I'm really looking forward to the Clippers 76ers one because I think the Doc Rivers Ty Lue matchup itself is a decent coaching matchup.
Great narrative, guys.
Yeah, great narrative there. So it'll be interesting to see. But again, guys, we've had it again where we come in quite well-mannered and calm, not knowing what's coming to get. I've sent you guys 4 topics for today, like an intro, review games, main topic preview, and then again we've gone off on a tangent where it's actually it's good because we're not. I'm glad we're not sat here going, I completely agree. Done. I'm completely agree. Done.
Yeah, it's almost like we're not on Sky Sports getting paid 250 grand a year to do this.
Imagine.
We should do a timer per segment.
Mate, I tried on the first weeks. I put a timer off my phone. 15 minutes. Like I tried to do like the quarter type thing, like we try and do it that way. It just didn't work. We
tried doing this last week. We was like, it's all right. It's only going to be a 40-minute this week. Yeah. It was our longest episode yet.
Because one person said the most outlandish thing going. All right, so boys, have a great week. We'll catch up next week. The benefit is it's Easter half term for me, end of term. So I've got more time to be on the social and actually post some stuff and get this out going a bit more. The views have dropped in the last couple of weeks, but I think that's down to just me not being able to get it out as much as I was previously. But that's on me. But I think in terms of what we're getting out with is 10 times better than what we started with. So actually, when it does go, these episodes are going to be the decent ones. All right, boys, have a great week. I'll catch up with you soon. See you guys later.
Peace out.